There are two possible ways to read your opponent. Now, when I talk about anticipation with right stick, which I often do on this channel, I'm talking about you selecting the defender before the opponent even passes that way so that you can anticipate it. You can be a step ahead of your opponent. Now, there's two ways to read your opponent. The first one is easier than the second one. So hear me out. Listen to both, and eventually, hopefully, you can get both down pat, depending on how much practice you put in. Now, the first one is from cues. There are in-game cues that allow us to gain a good understanding as to where your opponent will go next. For instance, you've got the striker offering for the ball in front of the centre back. That is an in-game cue. The reason why it's a cue is because anything that usually indicates where the opponent will go when the opportunity presents itself. So when a striker is offering for the ball in front of a centre back, it will be increasingly likely that your opponent will pass into him. Another scenario or another cue is when there's a runner in behind. It's a good indication that your opponent will put him through because he's running through the gap, he's running through the space, and he's making a run in behind the defensive line. That is our cue to select the defender to run alongside him. But in general, it's a cue that he will do that particular thing. For instance, if you're squeezing your opponent on the wing, he then turns back with his wing back. It is a good indication that he will switch the ball to the opposite side. So what you need to do, of course, is to select the opposite winger to then run straight directly towards the opposite wing back. And this is how you can start and read your opponent based off cues of your opponent. Cues of the attacking movements. The second technique of reading your opponent is a little bit more difficult, and it takes time. And I've discussed this on the channel before, but it's reading your opponent based on touch direction. This is how we really start to increase our defensive capabilities, improve them tenfold. It's when you can actually start and switch based on the touch direction that your opponent takes the ball first time after receiving the ball. You see, the thing is, if your opponent takes a touch downwards, it's a good indication that he's going to take the ball towards that direction. Yes, he may turn back, but that's where our switching comes into play, where we switch back to the original defender near the attacker still on the ball. However, what you need to do is start switching to the direction that he essentially will look to pass nets, and that's usually, if it's down, will be downwards towards a player offering for the ball. You may want to switch down to that midfielder to cut off that pass. This is how we can start being a step ahead. You do this in the box as well. If the opponent takes a touch back, there's a striker offering for the ball in the box, and the touch is that direction, you want to switch across to that centre back to cut that pass off. This is the two key ways to actually read your opponent and be one step ahead. You need to switch proactively and not reactively. Otherwise, you'll be a step behind your opponent every game, and that's not what we want to be at. We want to be ahead of our opponent. But I'm coaching one-on-one. Now, if you do want me to help you with this, it is advanced. It's hard, but if you can do this, I guarantee your defensive capabilities will increase tenfold. Check out the Academy. The link is down below. As I have mentioned before, buying EAFC points will not help you improve. It's actually working on techniques, the basics. Okay, and I can help you with that. Check it out. The link is down below. But I'm out. Sayonara. Au revoir. Adios, salam, ciao.
If you enjoyed the video, then I'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. And lastly, if you do want any pre-gaming fuel or supplement, then head over to atpscience.com, which is the first link in the description, and use the code DylanetsATP at checkout to get yourself a discount. Not only is it the cheapest way to get supplements, but it helps me out a ton, guys, so thank you.